From the Republic Media Network headquarters, it's time for Arnab Goswami on The Debate. Arnab Goswami on The Debate.
Well, Donald Trump is going to be, once again, for his second term, the President of the United States of America, the 47th President of the US. And the question everybody is asking is, how is this going to work for India? Well, at one level, it's going to work out great because Donald Trump personally has a wonderful equation with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He respects Narendra Modi. He's spoken about him so many times in interviews and statements. And it's quite clear that at a level of personal chemistry, both the leaders are strong leaders in complete control of their respective countries. For Narendra Modi, it is his third term. For Donald Trump, it is his second term. Both are leaders with cult followings and quick decision makers. So at a level of personal chemistry, I think there is a world of possibility out there that Narendra Modi and Donald Trump will do great things together, that they will be able to take quick decisions, cut the red tape, and make things work. Having said that, and despite the fact that many people believe that Donald Trump wants America and India to work together, and I too believe that he does want America and India to work together, I have no doubt that compared to Kamala Harris, he's a much better alternative as the President of the USA from an Indian perspective. But we must be extremely watchful as well, because there are things you say during an election. How Donald Trump will be in his second term towards India will only be found out after he enters the White House for a second term. And I would be watchful for three reasons. The first reason is because he's a protectionist. He loves Narendra Modi. He says Narendra Modi is a great leader, someone I'm very fond of. He's a fantastic man. But at the same time, he says that India is a big abuser of tariffs. And he has said that anyone who deals in foreign trade not using the dollar or not depending on the dollar will face 100% tariff blockages in the United States of America. Now, will he actually follow through on that? Remember, viewers, Donald Trump says one thing and does another many, many times. He goes back and then he conveniently forgets what he says. But if he plans to do that, if he wants to punish India for being part of a group that is going to encourage alternatives to, if not de-dollarization, alternatives to the dollar, then I think we're in for a rough ride, because Donald Trump wants 100% tariff on goods from countries that move away from the United States dollar in terms of global trade. He has said so in an election rally. The second reason I would be very watchful about Donald Trump is because he's going to put in heavy restrictions on immigration. Heavy restrictions. And remember, viewers, in his first term, the number of people who were denied H-1B visas went up 3 times. The number of people who were denied a simple L-1 visa went from 12 to 28%, 2.5 times. So he's going to make it very, very difficult for Indian nationals to get visas to work in the United States or even visit the United States for extended periods of time, because he is going to try and get an employment for US nationals. So he's going to be very protectionist in terms of the immigration policy, in terms of restrictions on visas. So I would be very watchful with him as far as that is concerned. In fact, he won't even allow automatic citizenship for children. Those born in the US will not automatically become US citizens. If he has his way, he's going to make sure one of them has a parent who's a US citizen or legally living on an extended residence permit in the United States. So he's very, very protectionist. And the third reason I would be watchful about Donald Trump is because I don't know how he's going to deal with Russia. And the fact that we are working very closely with Russia, at some point, it is possible that our stance could end up hurting him. Is he going to be different from the from the deep state. We know Donald Trump himself is a victim of the deep state. But the deep state hated India's nation-first position. And remember, Putin has not yet congratulated Trump because technically the United States is not a friendly country. Remember, viewers, see the muted language that came in from China, which says that we are going to work on the basis of mutual respect. Not a very warm and effusive welcome to Donald Trump in his second term. So beyond the fact that Putin and Trump may get along personally more than Biden and Putin ever did or ever will in the future, the fact is how Trump responds to the warmth between India and Russia is something we'll have to see and examine. So it's a changing world. Personally, I believe Donald Trump is a very practical man. He wants to do business. I think he's going to say a lot of things in the election. He may not follow through to the T after that. I think he's going to be reasonable. I think he's going to realize that he has to do business with India. Rhetoric is not enough. And that trying to make the kind of noises he made in his first term when he threatened sanctions, when we wanted to buy S-400 anti-aircraft missiles from Russia, that did not work. That needed India change its line, needed Narendra Modi change his line. I think this time he would be more practical and reasonable in his expectations of what India will or won't do. That's my analysis. So I'm not among those who think, oh, his coming back is going to be just fantastic for India. Not necessarily. He's better than Kamala Harris. But we are going to have to watch him on a day-by-day basis. Ladies and gentlemen, debate number one is on what the impact is, what the impact of Trump coming back is for India. Debate number two this evening on how the indie lobby doesn't have a go-to anymore in the US. And debate number three, ladies and gentlemen, is on why the wokes lost. I personally believe it's the media which lost. It's the wokes who lost. Kamala Harris was just a puppet, just a mukhota, as they say. That's debate 3 at 9 o'clock. And here are the headlines this Wednesday evening on the Debate Tonight. After a mammoth mandate, Donald J. Trump wins the US presidential elections to become the 47th President of the United States of America. Trump wins the elections, should I say sweeps the elections. The focus is now on India-US ties. Trump's victory seen largely positive, mainly due to his chemistry with Prime Minister Modi. The left liberal media totally loses it after the Trump win. Dejection and shockwaves spread around the American and European newsrooms that painted only negative pictures of the American president. Trump's victory cautions Putin. Kremlin says the US is still a hostile state and that only time will tell if Trump's rhetoric on ending the Ukraine war translates into reality. So naturally, we have a singular focus today, Donald J. Trump becoming the 47th President of the United States of America. What does this mean for India? From visas to the Trump-Modi bonhomie, is bonhomie enough? Or will we, as I said at the start, have to be very watchful this time? Let's take an overview and then we'll debate this.
हम सब खड़े होकर के नमस्ते ट्रम्प, नमस्ते ट्रम्प,
Namaste.
The words of candidate Trump. अब की बार ट्रम्प सरकार.
Donald Trump sweeps victory to become the 47th President of the United States. What does this landslide victory mean for India? Prime Minister Modi took to X to congratulate Donald Trump on his clincher victory. Trump has time and again talked about his good rapport with Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Modi, India. Yeah. He's a friend of mine. He's great. We have a great relationship with India. I did. And with especially the leader, Modi. He's a great leader, great man. Really is a great man. He's brought it together. He's done a great job, but they probably charge as much. I mean, I think they probably charge more than, in many ways, China. But they do it with a smile, you know.
Be it the Howdy Modi event back in 2019.
Prime Minister Modi is doing a truly exceptional job for India and for all of the Indian people. It is my immense privilege to be here with him today at this profoundly historic event.
Or the Namaste Trump tour in 2020, where the Trump-Modi bonhomie was in ample display.
A sense of leadership, a passion for America, a concern for every American. He needs no introduction. The President of the United States of America, Mr. Donald Trump.
Trump's aide, Shalabh Kumar, has voiced concerns about Kamala's take on Article 370 abrogation and Harris's unclear stance on violence against the Hindus.
Kamala has radical views on Kashmir. Every time Joe Biden gets a chance, every time Kamala gets a chance, Kamala will be even more enhanced. Prime Minister Modi and BJP in India is persecuting minorities. Forget about what's happening in Bangladesh. Forget about what's happening everywhere else against Hindus. To them, Hindus are the majority and the radical Islam. I'm not just going to say Muslims, but radical Islam is minority.
Moments after Trump's victory, Sensex had zoomed 1,000 points. Moreover, Nifty percentage experienced a 1.5% surge, with its stocks also experiencing a massive boom. Bitcoin prices had reached an all-time high. On one hand, higher tariffs on Chinese products could offer the edge to India's exports, while on the other hand, a strengthening US dollar may increase India's import expense. Analysts believe that the Indo-US business climate will benefit massively, while at the same time, there remains anticipated rise in US fiscal deficit. As Trump embarks on his second White House term, all eyes on what this victory means for the Indian apparatus.
So first we have with us a Member of Parliament and now a candidate in the upcoming Maharashtra elections. But tonight he's joining me because of his deep association both with American politics and with the Trump family. He knows the Trump family very, very well. And so Milind, thanks for taking time out from the campaign trail. You know the family. You know what they stand for. Are we expecting too much from Donald Trump in this term? Everyone's so enthusiastic about it. Why are we so enthusiastic about Trump?
Well, Arnab, firstly, thank you for having me on your show this evening. I have the good fortune of certainly of knowing President Donald Trump's son, Don Trump Jr. I have a good relationship with another senior man who fought as an independent initially in the presidential race and then supported President Trump, Robert Kennedy, RFK Jr. And I was hearing your introductory remarks, and I would make a few comments. One is, my late father was one of the earliest proponents of stronger Indo-US ties back in the 80s when it was very, very inconvenient to be an Indian politician who wanted to deepen ties with the US. I remember him telling me how he worked across the aisle with Democrats like Steve Solars, Republicans like Larry Pressler, who initiated the Pressler Amendment, which prevented almost $5 billion of American aid going to Pakistan, and how difficult it was to convince people on the Capitol Hill that India is a natural political, cultural, social, economic ally. I do believe, number one, that regardless of who comes to power in America, and to be fair, what a government in India looks like, the Indo-US relationship is here to stay. The Indo-US relationship has also matured to a level where America is fully aware of our historic ties with countries like Russia. And in that sense, the relationship is now one of two good friends who've been friends for a long time, who trust each other, support each other. But having said that, I do agree with you that it would be wrong on anyone's part to assume that because there may be camaraderie between the two leaders, that certainly helps in any relationship, in any bilateral relationship. I do think that President Trump will ultimately look out for what is in America's interests. President Trump ultimately, don't forget, one of his biggest policies in 2016 when he became president was to reduce America's dependence on Chinese supply chains, on global supply chains, bring manufacturing back to America. That comes with a cost. That increases inflation in their country. It makes goods and services more expensive in America. But he did that because he felt it's important to create jobs in America and not to use the American consumption story to essentially subsidize the economies of China, if you will. Prime Minister Modi did the same thing in 2014. In fact, Prime Minister Modi, to his credit, did it 2 years before President Trump, when he announced the Make in India initiative. So I think what's very critical to note is that America will look out for its own interests. India will look out and must look out for its own interests. If those two interests converge, so be it. But there may be times, especially in the area of trade, where those relations may clash. However, I do believe, from a political point of view, from a strategic point of view, today our interests are aligned in the Indo-Pacific. Our interests are aligned for a free and fair Indo-Pacific, a South China, in terms of reducing the aggression with regards to what's happening in South China Sea. I can go a step further. As someone who serves on the board of the Arctic Circle, that the Arctic, Arnab, is the next frontier. Today, the whole world is focused on the South China Sea, but as ice is melting in the Arctic, new shipping routes are becoming available through the northern sea route over Siberia. Effectively, a ship can carry cargo from China to Europe in lesser days through the Arctic route, through the northern sea route, than it can through the traditional route of going through the South China Sea and eventually through the Suez Canal. So even in the Arctic, there is essentially some kind of confrontation building up, not just between America and Russia, but one of the biggest players in the Arctic today is China. It calls itself a near-Arctic state. And there's tremendous opportunities for us to cooperate there as well. So I think on the strategic side, I see great potential in the Trump Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji relationship that will certainly help us punch way beyond our weight. But on the economic side, I think we may see certain issues with regards to trade, and that's natural. Both of us should look out for our own interests.
Yeah, but okay, so just a quick follow-up on that before I let you go. Milind, what about Pakistan, Kashmir? You know, it was felt that Kamala Harris, the woke stance, would be very, very pro-Pakistan, anti-India, established positions on that. You think Trump is much more on our side on that?
Absolutely. I would say, to be very honest with you, not to wear a political hat, but to be completely honest here, I think that, Kamala Harris may have been a slightly between a center-left Democrat and a progressive Democrat. But I think President Joe Biden was a center-left Democrat. And President Joe Biden also understood realpolitik. He was very pragmatic about America's stance on these issues. But I certainly see with President Trump that woke culture of having to please certain constituents, even though they know it's wrong, even though they know it's not in America's strategic interest, even though it's actually inaccurate. What we see, for example, in Canada, that will not be something that we see under President Trump. So I think there will be realpolitik, there will be real relations based on factual issues. Wokeness will certainly die a natural death in America, I hope, for the long term and permanently. But I do believe that we will have a certain dispute here and there on trade, and I think that's natural. America has every right to look out for its national interests. We have every right to look out for ours.
Of course.
Mind you, there are many areas, Arnab, where America is competing directly with China, whether it's in space, whether it's in robotics, whether it's in quantum computing. But there are many areas where America and India are both looking out for their own interests, and essentially there could be a clash in the future. One very good example is semiconductor chips. To reduce America and India's dependence on Taiwan, both countries have some form of a chip act. America calls it a CHIPS Act. We have a PLI, production-linked incentive scheme. 10,000 crore rupees to encourage domestic production of wafer fabs and semiconductor chips. The same is true of artificial intelligence. America is a huge hub of artificial intelligence competing against China. They have huge companies like NVIDIA. But we are also using production-linked incentives to encourage data centers to be housed in India. So these are areas where you may see some competition on trade. But as I said, I do believe politically, when it comes to issues like Kashmir, and more importantly, strategically, all the way from the Indo-Pacific to the Arctic, we will see greater cooperation under Trump.
Wow. Thank you for making time from your campaign, and all the best for that election. You must be feeling very inspired today as well. Milind, thank you very much. I'd like to go to our panel now. We have Suhel Seth after a long time back on air with PK Basu. We see Alok Bansal, Sushant Sareen, and we have, after a long time, Ravi Batra, well-known member of the South Asian Indian community there in New York. So, Ravi, are we getting romantic about the possibilities of what Trump could do for India-US relationship? Are we getting a little sort of carried away? What do you think this will do to our mutual relationship?
I think, first of all, today is a very happy day because America is reborn today. It is our resurrection of 1776 and 1787. India, by the way, should be our #1 cheerleader for this rebirth because it was the Indian tea in Boston Tea Harbor that started the American Revolution. And India, of course, paid the heavy price to Lord Cornwallis after he lost to our General George Washington. But today, America is finding its roots. It's celebrating its roots because, after all, America is born out of leaving Europe and the problems of Europe in this 17th and 18th century. So, and for over 50 years, Ranju and I have tried to bring India closer to the United States. And of course, today, it is a relationship of the 21st century. Prime Minister Modi in 2016 made a very important declaration in Washington, the Divisibility Declaration. We were there for it. We celebrated it. From our point of view, it was the ultimate pledge by India and every Indian which is a rule of law nation, to celebrate and support the United States. When America is strong, the world is better. When America is strong, wars don't start.
Yeah,
when America is strong,
but America under Trump. Okay, I think Ravi, I like you, but even you can get carried away sometimes, despite being such a great attorney. When Trump wants to do MAGA, he says Narendra Modi is a great friend, wonderful man. I mean, the kind of praise that Donald Trump has showered on Narendra Modi. In fact, in a recent interview said, I've never seen someone who holds his own. He doesn't even want American help in solving issues. All very great. But he also constantly refers to us as the biggest abuser of tariffs. And I was shocked when he said, I'm going to put 100% a tariff on goods from countries that move away from the US dollar in trade.
Well,
so can this sort of this pleasantry end overnight, Suhel? Because he's going to have to take tough business decisions.
So you've got to understand one thing about Donald Trump. He isn't a person who sticks to what he says. I mean, he says things because he says them for the moment. So don't expect him to be, consistent. He's unhinged, which is why he's won this election. And I'm glad he's won the election compared to Kamala Harris. Ravi, my good friend, has a romantic idealism about him, which is found after years of practicing at the bar in New York. But the truth is as follows. Donald Trump is the United States of America's president. He's not the Indian Prime Minister. He will work towards the benefits for America. If he says 100%, trust me, it will be that. Because that's what he wants. Look at his campaign promises, Arnab. His entire campaign pivoted around the fact that I want America's interests first. The subject could also be the Trump family's interest, but that's a separate matter. Number two, Donald Trump is a businessman. He's a deal maker. I mean, the art of the deal is embedded in him. He's going things which make him look smart. You know, he is, as Wodehouse would have said, he erects his own statue every morning that he looks in the mirror. So that's how he is. Number three, please remember, he was the only president of the United States in the last, 80 years or 100 years perhaps, under whose watch America did not go to war. Because he knows that that was money terribly spent.
Yes.
He was the one who pulled up NATO. He was the one who pressurized China. He was the one who was willing to do a deal with North Korea. That's in his grain. He does not want to waste money that should actually go back into the development of the United States of America.
Yes.
Now let's come to Narendra Modi and Donald Trump, or as we would say, Donald Trump. The reality, Arnab, is as follows. Narendra Modi represents the world's largest democracy. Donald Trump represents the world's oldest democracy. They have to make things work. Relationships are not only between two public individuals or two leaders who are individuals, they're also between countries. America can't ignore India as much as India can't ignore America. That's the reality of the matter. You know, it's not about the Indian diaspora, it's not about, howdy.
I agree, Suhel.
Howdy Trump. But that's how the reality is.
I agree, Suhel. And in fact,
feel very strongly that Donald Trump will be good for America. If he is good for America, subtextually, he'll be good for India and perhaps the rest of the world.
Now, in principle, I agree with you, and I agree to some extent with Ravi. The complex issue comes in this way, and I want PK and then Sushant to come in on it. I'm coming to you, sir, just a bit, Alokji. See, Narendra Modi also represents one of the world's largest defense importers, one of the world's growing defense exporters, the world's largest emerging market, and one of the world's largest IT workforces. And that's where conflict can begin to come in. Because soon they'll have to sit on the table, and I expect PK, he's going to be a really tough negotiator. It could be an all-new start. It's not continuity here. We don't know what to expect. PK? Indian companies won't know what to expect.
Okay, first of all, the US and India have a convergence of interests, and that convergence is going to be a lot greater under Trump. Trump is going to withdraw military assistance to Ukraine pretty quickly. That is going to be positive for the world because that will end the war and reduce oil prices. Secondly, he is going to increase US oil and gas production substantially. He's going to remove the regulatory limits on that. That will also reduce oil prices. So the fundamental positive is that we'll see lower oil prices that will be positive for India. Second is that, you talked about a potential for 100% tariffs on India because we might move away from using the US dollar. There is no reason for us to move away from the US dollar. The reason we were doing that was because of sanctions imposed by the Biden administration. And you must understand that Joe Biden has a personal kundak, so to speak, about Ukraine. He has been a long-term advocate for Ukraine joining NATO. That is not a consensus in the US. The Republicans don't want Ukraine to join NATO. Jim Baker, who was Secretary of State to George Bush I, had promised that there would be no expansion of NATO, even to include the Warsaw Pact countries, leave alone former parts of the Soviet Union like Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia, etc.
Truly.
So that the consensus is going to go back to the Jim Baker consensus, and the Jim Baker consensus is going to be accepted by Donald Trump. So I don't think there is any reason to fear the persistence of sanctions relating to the Ukraine war. Those will go away pretty soon.
I get that.
And that reduces the need for us to move away from the US dollar.
So which takes me to my next question.
There will be cooperation.
Which takes me, PK, to my next question, just so that I can get Alok and Sushant in.
Pacific will be the focus.
What happens to our relationship with Russia? Sushant and Alokji, if you can throw your weight in on that, will he be okay with our relationship with Russia, our trade with Russia, our being a big consumer of Russian oil? Will this be okay, and for how long? Sushant?
So I think, Arnab, it will depend on what kind of a relationship he wants to have with Russia.
True.
If he wants to improve relations with Russia, then he can't be pressing India to break off relations with Russia, right?
Yeah.
If he is going to be increasing, as Mr. Basu is saying, he's going to be increasing oil production within the United States, and oil prices are going to crash. The Russians are going to take a hit automatically. They depend on a certain level at which oil prices are to run their economy. Not only the Russians, many other countries, including Iran, will take a big hit if oil prices were to crash from, I think they're about $70, $75 right now, crash to about
yeah.
Right? But again, US can ramp up oil production only if it remains above a certain level so that fracking becomes possible. Otherwise, it's not economical. So we'll have to see how that balance operates. But if he is going to weigh in the direction of ending the war in Ukraine, and he's also going to pressure the Europeans to back off from the way they are trying to ignite the flames out there even more, and he's going to have some kind of a détente with Russia, which actually also gives him a bit of a leg up in a potential confrontation or contestation with China, which also works for us. In fact, one of the things that the Indians have been trying to impress upon the Americans is that it's strategically myopic for you to target the Russians, who are simply not the old Soviet Union and the superpower of the past. It's a great power still, but it's not what the Soviet Union was. And to push them into the arms of the Chinese.
Yes.
How does it make sense for the Americans? So if Trump is going to drive that wedge, it works for us.
Yes.
So we can be friends with the Russians. We are not going to be picking up a fight with the Chinese, but I think it does give us a leg up to even negotiate better with the Chinese if the Americans are breathing down their neck.
That is
between India and the United States again. Look, these are two big countries. Okay, we are not going to be on the same page on everything. We will have our differences. We are both very argumentative nations, and I have absolutely no problem, none whatsoever, if the Trump administration is going to be transactional. I think it works very well for us.
Of course, we are transactional.
Relationship, because Arnab, all international relationships are transactional.
Of course we are.
You put whatever cosmetics on it, call it strategic, comprehensive, civilization.
No. It's mutual interest. No, I totally agree with you. No, I like that. See, Suhel, everyone likes that. We're practical people.
We've got a Gujarati as Prime Minister.
So if supposing the Americans are going to place certain tariffs on us, let us see how we are going to negotiate.
No, of course we will. Of course we will. But I have a last point, and people are so enjoying the conversation here. I can't tell you so many people saying on social media, put this entire chunk on YouTube, your republicworld.com, so people can see it even if we're not live, and I'm going to do exactly that. My last question on this fantastic discussion is to Alok Bansal, geopolitical strategist. Mr. Bansal, my last question is on China. The Quad, which was on the back burner, was revived and given new life when Donald Trump came into power. That was 2017 that the Quad was revived. Will he want us in an anti-China camp?
See, I have no doubts that he would want to revive Quad and want us in an anti-China camp. And in fact, the whole euphoria in India, as far as Trump presidency is concerned, besides personal equations, stems from he's an enemy of our enemies. He's anti-China, he's expected to be anti-Pakistan, so he'll do that. But I have 6 or 7 major problems with Trump. Starting with, he would not want American companies to set up investment in India for setting up production facilities. He would want them to shift back production facilities to US so that US citizens get employment. He would like to raise tariffs. For a country like India, which has a favorable balance of trade, that will be again a problem. You have talked about visas. H-1B, L-1 visas will be curtailed severely. IT companies will be affected adversely. There is no doubt about it. You talked about BRICS currency and alternative mechanisms which we are working, Russia paying on rupee, ruble, etc., which will be there. And one issue which is often forgotten is that his pathological hatred for Iran could actually create another war in Persian Gulf. And that would be extremely catastrophic for India, because 100 billion plus remittances that we get every year, almost 50% of that comes from Gulf countries. Now, that conflict can not only curtail this remittances as happened during the first and second Gulf War, but could also choke Persian Gulf, from which we get valuable energy sources, and bulk of our trade actually transits through that. So these are some of the issues which come. And finally, Trump is extremely inconsistent. So how do you plan? Today he'll make one statement, tomorrow he'll make something.
Can I get a rebut? Mr. Bansal, as the contrarian in the group, you're getting reactions. I'm extending. 20 seconds from Suhel. Suhel first. PK after that. Suhel first.
Let me tell you, Mr. Bansal, we are all predicting an unpredictable man's term even before his term has begun. So remember, his unpredictability is his biggest thing.
They have a good laugh on that.
You know, I want to just end, because Arnab has actually studied in a proper university. It's about a quote from Julius Caesar. You know, when Caesar was told he could never be flattered, he was most flattered. Donald Trump is the modern day Julius Caesar.
All right, okay.
Just keep flattering him.
No, I think he's very practical. Ravi, 10 seconds to Ravi.
Yes.
Rejoinder, Ravi.
The dollar is
PK.
a battle line. Yeah, dollar is a battle line.
Yeah,
Anybody
dollar is
who
the battle line.
Moves away from the dollar is no friend.
We're at war. Okay.
Second, just a month ago, I spoke to Wang Yi, the distinguished foreign minister of China, and I said, America made you rich and powerful. Why are you not an American ally? So India needs to watch on its flank, because China.
Oh, okay. Now
I'm. Like to see that prepared.
Okay. I have to go, but I have to let PK have a 10-second rejoinder.
Okay, quickly on Iran, the JCPOA needs to be abandoned, because Iran is very close to getting a nuclear weapon, and Trump is going to ensure that there'll be renewed sanctions on Iran.
Yeah, I know.
This is not too bad for India, because we had the Chabahar port. The Chabahar port was for Afghanistan. It was for the regime that is gone from Afghanistan. So
5 seconds
we
to
can't
Sushant.
really use the Chabahar port anymore.
5 seconds to Sushant.
So the key point, though, is that there will be new sanctions on Iran.
5 seconds to
It much more
Sushant.
difficult for Iran to prosecute the war against Israel through Hamas and Hezbollah.
Okay. Sushant, you want?
Arnab,
So
just few quick points about my friend Alok. Look, one on the visa thing. If he's stopping illegal immigration, but legal migration is going to be allowed, I don't see what is the problem, especially if technically qualified Indians start getting jobs out there. Not all of them, but Indian students, for example, who go out there, he has said that there will be some kind of an automatic route. So what's the big deal? And in any case, if Indians stay back in India and make a greater India, what is our problem?
No. The problem is not that. The problem is Donald Trump says, I want the Harvard, MIT, Oxford, Cambridge types. He's very clear. He wants the creme de la creme of Indian students.
You're Oxford, Cambridge.
I'm too old now. Thank you very much, Suhel, for that. Okay.